How are you buying lumber? So I buy rough cut lumber. So this is maple, hard maple. It's rough 4 sides. All right. If you run this through the planer, are you getting a flat board out of it? Unless you're using a sled. But sleds do take a lot of time to set up, gluing, waiting for glue to dry, cool down and everything like that. I'm gonna show you how I use my joiner here to flatten this board on one face and one edge. Now I can't run this board on this face and then this because you're not going to get an actual coplanar surface. What it's only going to do is, it's going to when you run a board on its face on here, it's going to keep flattening, right, till it gets the wobble out. But when you try and flip it over and do the other side, it's just going to keep traveling until it gets that wobble. There's nothing that's going to tell the joiner to, hey, you need to make this coplanar to the other side, right? That's where the planer comes in. But first, let's put an edge on this, face on this, and then an edge. I'll talk about the edge later on.
So I get questions every week from people asking me about what my process is, and that's why I decided to make this video. So here I'm just demonstrating that the board itself has a cup to it, and a cup means from the length of the board, from edge to edge, it crowns upwards. So I'm going to be running this over the face and just taking a little material at a time. I'll flip the board over here and show you that just a little bit of the edges and got cleaned up. So I'll keep running this through and through till it's cleaned up and nice and flat. I will flip it up on its side, on its edge, and I'm going to reference the flat bottom off of the fence to get a parallel cut. And you'll see that here. So now, since the board has a little bit of a hook to it, which means it's not completely flat, it only took off the edges. You don't want to do it on the other side because then the board can rock back and forth and you're going to take off a whole lot more material than you need to. So you can see you got a nice clean edge. Now that I switched over to the planer is going to give a coplanar cut to the top of the board. Since the bottom is now flat, it can't rock back and forth, and the blades at the top are just going to take material off until you get that flat surface. And at the end of this, I'll talk about how it's an S3S board. Hard maple is a dense wood, and these are carbide cutters in here. They cut it really nice and smooth, but I still like to try and take small passes on it just so I don't abuse the blades.
So here now what we have is called S3S. So I got a flat face here, a flat edge here, this edge here, and this face are square, 90 degrees. And then I got a coplanar surface from the bottom here. So what I'm going to be doing now is, you see this rough cut edge here, I'm going to run this down my table saw now, and I'm going to square this board out, and I'm going to have S4S lumber. I'm going to have perfectly flat, square lumber to be used for this table that I'm making. If you have boards that are unsquare, you're going to have crooked glue ups. It's going to rock. It's not going to look great. So let's rip this edge down here. We'll throw a square on it and check it out. Before we begin this cut too, let's talk about this awesome saw blade I picked up. I believe it was, I might have got it on a Black Friday deal, but it's Ridge Carbide. It's a super saw, 24 tooth, full kerf blade. Thing is so sharp. It's got some copper, I forget the term for it, like vibration reducers. Oh man, this cuts so nice. Very happy with it. American made, right from Kansas. I had a really great conversation with the owner who I asked a genuine question. I said, what makes you any different than, I'll just say it. I asked him, what makes you any different than Forest blades? Why are your blades better or their blades better, et cetera, et cetera. Give me your opinion on it. I got the most honest and genuine answer, and I loved everything he said about it. He gave me some positive, awesome information about these, and it was a no-brainer to go with them. So as far as performance, I'm absolutely happy with it. It cuts great. It cuts right through sapele, which is a hard wood. You know me, I like my sapele, it doesn't burn it. Now, I do have my table saw squared up nice, and I don't really have to worry about, when I stop and, it leaves that little edge. So, let's get cutting with this. You'll see it leaves a nice crisp edge, and you know, I employ you if you want to check out a good saw blade. That's a lot more premium than what you can get in the big box stores. So, Ridge Carbide. I also have their 40 tooth all-purpose, and I'm looking to pick up an 80 tooth for plywood. So, yeah, let's get cutting.
Now that I have my S3S lumber, I'm running the flat edges on the bottom cast iron and then the fence, and it's going to get me a true square cut on the table saw here. I'm going to demonstrate here, showing there's no burning. And I did stop and hesitate a couple times. Very happy with the setup that I have here. Having square boards is just going to get you a nice, better product.
All right, so what we have here is the S4S board. We have a flat face, a squared corner edge, right? Then we have a coplanar face on the other side, and then a squared out cut from the table saw. So I'll put this, I got a 4-inch Starrett combo square. People post the videos and stuff all the time. You can't see this, but it's square. I like it. So I have a bunch of other maple to work on, and so I have a bunch of other maple that I need to work. Ow, I just cut myself. I have a bunch of other maple that I need to work on milling down and let it rest for a little bit, do a final pass, and you know, as you take wood, as you start taking material off of wood, you know, regardless if you know, kiln dried and stuff like that, there's certain hardening that happens, and you know, there's tension, especially hard maple. There's a lot of tension in hard maple. Wood can still move a little bit, so you just kind of let it settle out, and I'll take a final pass on everything. It doesn't take too long, but that way you know you're getting nice square wood, and it's staying flat too.